Hello. Hi, and welcome, and thank you for joining us for another session of Daftarkhwan Insights. My name is Prayal Azmin. I am the marketing head here at Daftarkhwan. This session today is brought to you by Daftarkhwan. For 5 years now, Daftarkhwan has been building a co-working community of entrepreneurs and professionals working on some of the most exciting business ideas in Pakistan. And this community has now grown to hundreds of people across multiple cities and sites to empower businesses across the board in their journey to growth and scale. So through these sessions, we learn from some of the most brilliant professionals across all walks and allow their expertise to help shape how each of us have set out to change the world through our life's work. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Hassan Baig. He is the CEO of Rare Sense. Rare Sense are currently focused on the rare NFT space, which is called non-fungible tokens. So today we're here to talk to Hassan to learn how to raise money through NFTs. So I don't want to blabber on too long and introduce you to Hassan Baig. Hi, Hassan.
Hey, Prayal, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Nice to see you. So
Likewise.
without further
Yeah,
ado,
without
I'll
further
leave
ado,
you.
I'll share my slides and let me know when you can
Perfect.
see them and let's kick it off, okay?
Okay.
Just hold on. Just give me a moment.
Yep, we can see them.
Okay, and I'll flip through a few and just let me know that they're changing as well so that I know my
Okay.
internet is behaving, right? Does it work?
Yes, it's working. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right,
So,
great,
okay,
Hassan.
okay, I'll kick it off. Hi, everyone. This presentation is about raising money through non-fungible tokens, which you also know as NFTs. You've probably seen that term in the news and in the media, etc. Now, like Farrell mentioned, my name is Hassan, and I'm the founder of an NFT startup, and I'll share my findings with you. But that doesn't mean I'm a financial advisor. Just giving you a heads up. Market conditions in the crypto space change really fast. So no matter what anybody tells you when it comes to crypto markets, always do your own research so you can make the best decisions for yourself. Now, with that out of the way, let's get on with it. I'll first revisit some core concepts so that all of us are on the same page. Um, Number one, the blockchain. A blockchain is like a database. Many blockchains are open to public, so anyone can interface with them. Now, no single person owns the blockchain. Blockchains, once they get traction, they live forever. The data on them is forever as well. No one can hide or delete that data. No one can shut down that blockchain. Sometimes people call them the single source of truth. Next concept I'll touch upon is smart contracts. Now, I just said blockchains are like a database. Well, smart contracts turn that database into a computer. So instead of just a database, blockchains with smart contract functionality can be thought of as computers that nobody owns, but anybody can use. Computers that nobody can shut down. Computers that compute forever. When some information exists on these computers, that information is forever as well. Now, the biggest blockchains in the world, as everybody knows, are Bitcoin and Ethereum. There are tons of others, with their own little variations and bits and bobs. So, what is an NFT? An NFT is just a certificate of ownership, nothing more than that. It certifies that entity X owns object Y. For example, it could certify that I own a car, or a piece of land, or a Fortnite skin, or even a JPEG file. So, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is when you put that certificate on those immortal blockchain computers I just talked about, that certificate lives forever, meaning you can track any object's ownership as if it's the word of God. And in a world where people are obsessed with owning things, that makes all the difference. At the moment, NFTs are being used to certify all kinds of ownership. For example, ownership of digital art, ownership of music, like you can actually own a song that nobody else owns. ownership of game items, ownership of moments in time, that's possible too, ownership of experiences, ownership of rights, ownership of something as basic as tweets. So it's the mundane and the profound mixed together. If you want to know more, you can search about NFTs. There are many ways to describe them. They have many attributes. You'll find a ton of stuff. Now, as universal as NFTs are, they're going to become even more so because of something called the metaverse. Let me quickly explain what's the metaverse, and then I'll talk about its connection to NFTs. The metaverse is interconnected virtual worlds. You can jump from one world to the next without having to come back to real life. Many smart people think that the internet is going to evolve into the metaverse. Instead of apps or websites, you'll have virtual worlds. And you'll spend most of your time in this metaverse, like you already spend most of your time on the internet. People will build much more stuff in the metaverse than they've built in real life because you don't need bricks and cement to build something in virtual reality, right? You only need imagination. That's why the metaverse will be 100x bigger than real life. So, how does the metaverse relate to NFTs? Well, every object in the metaverse could be an NFT. Entire worlds can be NFTs. Buildings in those worlds can be NFTs. Furniture in those buildings can be NFTs. Insects crawling on that furniture can be NFTs. And people want to be able to own everything, right? And they will. Hence, NFTs are going to be much bigger than what you see right now. They're not just the future of ownership, they just may be the future of existence. As in, if it exists, it's an NFT, and vice versa. Now, a quick disclaimer, this doesn't mean the NFT market can never crash. That's not the point. It only means NFTs as a concept, as a technology, are here to stay. And that's because people's desire to own more and more stuff is also here to stay. NFTs will keep feeding into that. So, in terms of growth rates, the NFT market is in the middle of an explosion. All of us have seen the news. Most smart people think that it's becoming a major industry. And in terms of segments, the art and collectible segments are the largest chunks. Gaming is also a very promising segment. There are some great NFT-based games out there that's like that deserves a separate session. Now you can get a lot of information on all these market trends from nonfungible.com and DappRadar. Take a look at these sources whenever you can. Now, but one segment that isn't big right now, but has a lot of potential, a lot of promise, is fundraising for startups or whatever your initiative is. Now, there are many ways, we already know them, to raise money for your startup, and all have their own pluses and minuses, right? For example, venture capital is a very structured way to raise money, plus you get great feedback. But on the flip side, it's also a relatively small club of investors. So if you're an outsider, it's hard to break into it. In contrast, let's look at crowdfunding. Your first few customers are also your investors, which is great social proof for your product or service. However, you need a ton of effort for a successful crowdfunding campaign. It's really hard to pull off. Now, if you were to raise money through NFTs, it's kind of like crowdfunding, but the market is much less saturated. The crypto community is much more supportive. And from an innovation standpoint, you get to be part of the future much sooner than your competition. So let's go deeper into raising money through NFTs. Now, as is the case with most systems, there's a certain playbook that you need to follow to be successful. You also need to decide which blockchain to launch your NFTs on. Ethereum is the most popular one, but it's also the most saturated, right? Other blockchains are much less saturated, but their market capitalizations are tiny compared to Ethereum. So it's a trade-off. And lastly, it'll be helpful if your project is a blockchain project. But even if it's not, NFTs, they have mainstream appeal, so you can still pull it off. The playbook for the NFT fundraise has three essential parts: the artwork, the tech, and community building. The artwork is the visual part of the NFT. This part matters because this is what the owner of the NFT gets to show off to his friends or to other people on the internet. So culturally relevant, high effort artwork that helps people flex, literally that is the way to go. Artwork that's not polished will fail to inspire people. Artwork that has no story to back it up will also fail to inspire people because it's culturally irrelevant. In fact, sometimes even plain looking NFTs sell for a lot of money because the story behind them is so powerful. Look up CryptoPunks and Ether Rocks as great examples of that. The underlying tech is also an important aspect of NFT launches. NFTs are essentially code, right? So you can program them to have interesting attributes. For example, you can program NFTs to have joint ownership. And whenever such NFTs are sold, each owner gets money in proportion to their share. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are many other use cases, many other things that you can manage through coding and functionality in the NFT verse. Community building, now that is perhaps the most important aspect of a successful NFT campaign. When you have a community literally waiting for your NFTs, that's when you raise a lot of money. Without community backing, your NFTs will be ignored. Spray and pray doesn't work. It looks like it's a spray and pray world if you go to these NFT marketplaces, but it's not. Only those drops that do well that have core support from a very energized community. Now there are three core platforms where the crypto community hangs out. It's Twitter, Discord, and Telegram. And then there are a few others: long tail Reddit, TikTok, a little bit Facebook, Instagram. Now the best way is to use influencer marketing to get the word out. You can also offer NFT rewards to people who write about your project or invite their friends to your project, etc. You can be as creative as you want. Other interesting sales techniques include giving out some NFTs for free so that you can jumpstart your community. This is called an airdrop. Or if you don't want to do free NFTs, you can offer a limited number of discounted NFTs before opening up the sale to everyone. This is called a pre-sale. Lastly, you can also sell NFTs by cohort, meaning instead of selling the whole batch, sell a portion of the batch, then pause the sale, drive up FOMO, then restart the sale, rinse and repeat. And once you've raised your money, decide whether the funds should be kept in crypto or converted to fiat. Because if you want to convert the funds to fiat, there could be a complex legal process and there could be tax implications. So get legal help from professionals. Now let's go over some real examples of people using NFTs to raise money. A French startup called Sigil recently raised $500,000 through selling their NFTs. They're probably one of the first startups in the world to do it. They did it almost 2 weeks ago. The artwork of their NFTs, it referenced a world-famous science fiction author from France, so it was very relevant for their community. The NFTs had this utility that if you buy them, you get premium features on Sigil's product. That also made a lot of sense to their users. And as for the community, these guys focused on Twitter and Discord mostly. So that's one case study, one example. And it's not only startups that are using NFTs to raise money. Creators and influencers are doing it too. Like for instance, a few months ago, the influencer Gary Vee sold his NFTs for $23 million. This money will help Gary arrange conferences for his superfans. The artwork on these NFTs was pretty simple. It was like basic doodles. Gary made these doodles himself, so it was very authentic, even if basic. In terms of utility, the NFTs let buyers meet Gary and spend time with him in person And that's unprecedented. So his super fans are crazy about it. They're ecstatic that, hey, here's a person with 9 million followers on Instagram. He's a big deal for them. And Gary is giving his access, his time to his followers through his NFTs. And as for the community, for this NFT drop, Gary built, his community across various social media. He's pretty good at that. So, went across the board. And here now is an example of using NFTs to raise funding for climate change. Causes are getting into it too. The NFT campaign that you see on the slide here, this NFT campaign is still ongoing. It's very fresh. So we don't know yet how much money they've raised. Can physical businesses raise funding through NFTs as well? Well, McDonald's has launched NFTs. So it's conceivable that any physical business can have an NFT strategy. Even investment funds, especially in the crypto space, investment funds can be raised and managed through NFTs. And even governments can finance their spending through official NFTs. It hasn't happened yet, but there are rumblings out there in the sector. You can, read news about it. It's probably the final stage of adoption for this tech. So that's basically most of what I had to say about the subject. In a nutshell, the market is exploding as we speak. You can take advantage of it. You can raise money for whatever it is that you do. Focus on the artwork, utility, community for best results. Good luck. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Hassan. That was very insightful. Actually, so now, we'd like to obviously invite people to ask questions about, any questions they have regarding NFTs or this whole Bitcoin space. You've definitely given us some food for thought. So whilst we wait for people to drop in their questions, you can leave your question under the comment section, and I will ask Hassan those questions for you. So just a few questions I had actually, whilst you were speaking about this. You just mentioned something about raising investment funds through NFTs. Has that happened already? Is that, is this happening? Can startups do this?
Yeah, the one example that I talked about, Sigil, that's a French company. I know the CEO personally. They've just raised, closed their round over like 2 weeks ago. Another company based in New York. I know those guys too. They convert real world art into NFTs on the blockchain. They raised 300K through NFTs. And this is like super fresh. It's happening right now. Mostly, let me also give you a little bit of context. Now, what do you hear in terms of fundraising and crypto? You hear about token drops. You hear about something called ICOs, and they've been happening for a long time. You don't hear about NFT drops to raise money for startups. And that started happening like 2 weeks ago. It's a micro trend. I wouldn't really call it a segment as such. But it just makes sense that if you're an NFT startup, instead of getting into tokenomics, you get into NFTs, right? Because that's your core competency. That's what you understand. That's the tech that you're into. So I do expect this is just a natural thing for startups to do. I expect this to pick up.
Okay. So thing is, NFTs haven't been around that long, it seems anyway, because it's only been like 2021 where we've really heard, all about NFTs. And, since there's been the whole Twitterati kind of a situation going on all around it with memes and everything else. So considering it's quite new, some people are obviously probably more hesitant to go towards it. They're probably wondering, will the crypto market crash? Will NFTs disappear? What do you have to say about that?
A couple of things. That's just for the record. Purists would say, "Hey, man, they've been around for X number of years and everything." So with that out of our view, they really got mainstream attention this year. That's what happened, right?
Yeah.
They existed like way before that. They were a small niche. Now it's like a burgeoning industry. Now, with that said, crypto markets, everybody knows, there's crypto winter. And then the market gets hot. It happens. It's very cyclical, right? Everybody has their theories on this. NFTs have been around, and they've, as technology, they've like really matured into something that I just don't see going away, especially because now they're tapping into this basic human desire of wanting to own things, right? wanting to show them off. It's like the biggest flex there is, because hey, here's the thing: you can show off, say, a picture of your fancy car on Instagram. People are already doing that, but hey, there's still that problem that hey, is it really your car, or you're just posing next to it? Now,
Right.
with an NFT, when you know you own it, and if it's like from one of the premier biggest drops out there, right? People can tell, hey, this person probably like paid, I don't know, 5 Bitcoin for this or whatever it is. Like it's much more than that, in fact, in certain cases, millions of dollars. So that's the
Yeah.
biggest flex there is. And that was the earliest adoption that happened. Everybody jumped into it. And then, of course, people realized NFTs are also programmable. So they're doing a lot of other stuff. So in a nutshell, I do expect that markets can have ups and downs as technology. I think it's here to stay because it
Mhm.
taps into the core human psyche of wanting to show stuff off and stuff.
Okay. But do you think ever, because people are now like, some people are like, well, are NFTs going to be like, the Bitcoin? Should we invest now, or should we start getting into this game now, get in ahead, and make a quick buck almost, because that's what a lot of people think when they think of NFTs or maybe Bitcoin. Some people are like, maybe this is a quick cash, quick money kind of a situation. What do you have to say about that?
The market is extremely speculation driven at the moment, and it's not just NFTs, it's the whole crypto markets. And some would say, even with those meme stocks and typical stock markets, right? We've seen what happened with GameStop and everything. That's the world we live in. Like Elon Musk, he fires off a tweet, and suddenly there's a deluge of people doing something. And then he
Yeah.
suddenly says, hey, I just sold off my holding, and the whole market crashes. That's the world that we live in. It's not just crypto. Crypto is too big right now to crawl back into its hole from whence it came. It's gone mainstream. Likewise, NFTs are pretty big as well. Now, about speculation, see, here's the thing: like a lot of speculators have jumped into this whole thing, and just like you get a lot of, they call them garbage coins, right? They call them trash coins. These little coins are not, they're just there for a quick cash grab. People, come up with them and they shill them, and it's all over the social media. They hire influencers. People are doing that with NFTs too. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. It's inevitable. It happened when the internet was a new technology back in the mid '90s. We all remember, like there was a huge crash in .com bubble burst. But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean the internet went away. In fact, there's an interesting study. If you look at the rate of adoption of the internet, and you look at how the stock market crashed, when the stock market crashed and all those internet companies that went bust, rate of adoption didn't matter. It still kept on climbing at exactly the same rate, right? So crypto is going mainstream, NFTs are going mainstream. Some of those projects are going to crash and burn. If you want to get into them, again, nobody can predict the future. Go do your own research. If you believe in a project and you think that the whoever owns this thing is not going to run away, they have proper profiles, you know them, you've done your due diligence, take a plunge and diversify your portfolio. But again, this is just me saying it from the top of my head, not a financial advisor. Everybody should just do
Yeah.
their own research. In a nutshell, I mean, to your point, it's going to happen. A lot of these projects will go down to zero because that's just
Mm.
what happens in all of these waves, right? But the tech is here to stay. If you get the good ones, that's where all the money is made.
Yeah. Like anything really, I suppose.
Yeah,
Um,
literally.
yeah. Another question I had was, so Facebook, they've talked a lot about the metaverse. They've even changed their name recently, but it's not a blockchain company. So is the metaverse a blockchain concept, or is it unrelated?
Um, well, a purist would say it's unrelated, to be honest. It doesn't need decentralization to exist. Now, what's really happened is that some of these crypto projects, they've ventured into virtual reality, decentralized virtual reality, okay? And at the same point in time, Facebook, through its Oculus system, was also getting into it. So what we're really seeing is these two streams, competing streams, where one is completely decentralized and the
Mm-hmm.
other is completely centralized. Now, what does that mean? What that means is, in a decentralized virtual world system that combines to form the metaverse, in that metaverse, you own your data,
Right.
you own your, identity and everything that you have. In the centralized metaverse concepts, your data, your likeness, your content, everything is owned by, in this case, for example, Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the way they monetize you. So really, what it really comes down to is these different business models. I think they'll go head to head, and I think at some point in time, I know people have this very strong sort of sentiment when it comes to privacy concerning Facebook. It remains to be
Yeah.
seen whether which side wins out. Facebook, they have like sway over 2.5 billion people in the world. It's like they are the most influential company in the world. So it's hard to write them off.
Yeah.
And so it's not a blockchain concept, but there's a lot of competition coming in from the blockchain side of things, and there's some really really good companies there. That's why I mentioned it. But yes, it's like both centralized and decentralized.
Okay. We have a question actually. So I'm just gonna get that up. Is there a platform where a startup can go to and launch their NFTs, something similar to Kickstarter?
So I'm assuming that he's talking about um, they're talking about a dedicated platform just for startups. I haven't seen a mature platform that just does it just for startups, right? Maybe that's a startup idea right there. But what I have seen is this: people, they host their NFTs on their own website that they've put up to showcase their NFT drop. Has all the features and the graphics and whatever it is that you want to show to the world, right? And then once the NFT campaign goes live, it's listed on some of the biggest NFT exchanges out there. Like OpenSea is the biggest one. Number
Yeah.
two is I think Rarible, and so on and so forth. So that's what people are doing right now. I'm not really sure whether there's actually space enough for a dedicated startup platform, but hey, who knows? Who knows? I don't know of any though. If that was
I
the
mean,
question.
so for a startup, then what would you advise or what would you recommend?
So build your community. Okay, have your own page, showcase your NFTs and what is it that they do and the artwork and whatever it is. Okay. Eventually they're going to get listed on OpenSea if you're Ethereum based, or if
Mhm.
you're working with some other blockchain, then they probably have their own NFT marketplaces. Whatever the biggest one is going to get listed over there. So so think less about which platform it's going to go to, and think more about, hey, do you have enough people on your Telegram? Are there enough people excited about your product on Discord, right? What does your Twitter look like, right? Because
Yeah.
hey, you could list it on OpenSea and your Twitter has 5 followers. That's not going to work out. You really need this dedicated team, community that is really engaging with your product, and really into it, right? That's where success comes from.
I mean, it's interesting. It makes you kind of think, should have really worked on my influencer marketing, or should have really worked on getting as many followers as possible. Now that you think of these things like Twitter following and Instagram following, even, I suppose, makes you really wonder, was I smart not to have all those followers follow me, or who's winning out there? But yeah, influencer marketing, I think, would really benefit from this new age. A last question I have, before anyone else, if they want to ask any questions. We're still taking questions, everybody, if you'd like to send anything in. So some NFT projects have really basic art, but they sell for millions. It's crazy when you look at it. With something, for instance, recently, the CryptoPunks, they had something really simple, pixel art. But how come it, had such a huge project?
Okay, so a project like CryptoPunks, don't judge it on the artwork. CryptoPunks was one of the earliest projects, one of the biggest ones. So, it has a lot of prestige, right?
Right.
The prestige doesn't really have to be a looker. Prestige just
Okay.
stands on its own 2 feet, right? So there's that. Um, I mean, there's an interesting sort of dynamic here. Blockchains, um, the moment of their genesis is a term which means the moment that blockchain came online. They literally use that in the crypto community, right? So the closer an NFT project is to the genesis block of that blockchain, the more valued it is by the community, because they're like, it's one of the earliest ones. So it's the OG project. They really care about it.
Right.
And that's not just Ethereum, that's across the blockchains, right? So that's the CryptoPunks effect. And that's the Ether Rocks. You should check out Ether Rocks. They're even more basic, and you'll be like, hey, this looks like this is crap, but they sold for millions because it's the prestige, right? It
Right.
still gives you that flex that, hey, I own something that was one of the earliest ones. And so, it's getting by. It's still early days. I do think that, people are going after something that kind of feels like it's gimmicky, but give it time. NFTs are programmable. You're going to start seeing some extremely, interesting and different use cases. And so that is coming. That is coming.
But get in early then, I suppose, is the tip there.
Getting early and diversify so that you don't put all your eggs in one basket, and when it goes down you're like, hey man, I hate Hassan, he told me to do this.
Don't hate Hassan. We have a question here from Mariam Khan. She says, tips on building the community and any resources to learn from it. So I'm assuming the startup community or whatever community you're in.
Okay. I think it's really pertinent for me to say at this point in time that I myself am in the process of building my community. I'm by no means an expert, but I can tell you what my friend Leo did for Sigil, the French startup that I mentioned. He has some interesting little bounties and rewards for community building. One of the things that he did was he got hold of a bunch of influencers, micro influencers. I'm not talking like big names, and he had them change their Twitter display pics to the NFTs that Sigil was going to launch. He had them do it for a month, so it was sustained marketing to their followers. And in return, he didn't pay them. He gave them free NFTs from the same drop. Okay, so that's one. Two is everybody does this. You ask people to bring in 5 friends, 10 friends, and get whitelisted and get a free NFT. Almost everybody's doing that, right? It works, right? So there's that. People are having meme contests. A lot of that, meme content generated by these sort of communities is just people are being forced into doing it because that's how they get whitelisted, and they're like daily winners and whatnot. So there's that playbook as well. um, One thing out of the box that you can do is there are projects where people they jump in, they manage the marketing, and they move on to the next one, and then the third, and so on and so forth. You can find such people on LinkedIn, get in touch, interview them, talk to them about what their experiences are, try to hire them, maybe part-time they work for you, who knows, right? But it's a journey, and once you're good at this point in time, that is where people are making the most money. People are able to build that community because, like, Farrell, you're right, like silly projects with like silly artwork, they've still made big money, right? Like ostensibly it looks like, hey, this shouldn't sell, but it is for whatever reason. But the community is a common factor amongst all of those, right? What's not going to happen is like you have no community and you still sell, you miraculously go viral. That doesn't happen. Everything is paid, or everything is blood, sweat, and tears. So these are just some tactics that you can employ. There's no golden pill that I can say, hey, just do this and it's going to work, because everybody's trying the same thing. So just imagine there's a lot of competition, right? So there's that.
Makes sense. Okay, we have another one. Shamila, can we launch NFT from Pakistan? I think she meant to say our company needs to be registered abroad.
Yeah,
Or sorry,
I
or the
get the
company needs to be
question.
registered abroad. Sorry.
Right. I actually, I had a conversation with some legal people regarding that. So our company is registered in the US. We're not actually a Pakistani company. Now, having said that, the advice that I got was don't do it from Pakistan. And it's not because it's banned in Pakistan. We had the option of doing it from the US, right? So in our case, the
Right.
advice was, hey, there's fuzziness here. They're still figuring out the regulation. Why do you even have to get into that? You're a US entity. You can just, use your US entity to launch your NFTs and whatever it is that you're doing. Now, in your case, it's not set in stone like China that, hey, we're not going to allow this, right? That's where Pakistan is. And likewise, it's not as open to cryptocurrency as like El Salvador or whatever those countries are where Bitcoin is even legal tender. It's kind of in the middle and it's fuzzy. And it could be like you wake up the next day and there's bad news or there's good news. Who knows? It can sway
Yeah.
both ways. So there's uncertainty there, which is unfortunate. If you can register your entity in a crypto friendly uh, uh, geography, that's really going to help you. It's going to help you tremendously. What would really suck is that you did everything the right way and the hard way, and you got something, and in the end, there was some regulatory issue because of which you got into trouble with the local authorities. If it's not an option for you, and if you just want to, hey, you want to start small, you will say, you don't want to like raise $1 million, you want to try 50K or whatever. Be fast, try it out, see what happens. You've got nothing to lose in that case.
Okay, fair enough. It's actually interesting. We were talking about this the other day, you and I, where the crypto, the NFT space, it's not really regulated in the sense that I think you said that the entry and exit points are the ones that are regulated. Everything else, is not regulated. Is that correct?
Yeah. So whatever happens on the blockchain, that is transparently visible to everyone, but it's also anonymous because it's not like my name's written over there. What I have is just a wallet address, alphanumeric string, right? There's nothing more than that. So what normally happens is that they try to, take your real world credentials at entry and exit points and match them up with whatever your wallet address is. And once they have those mappings, and they can track you for tax purposes and everything. Overall, my sort of feel about the whole thing is that don't try to avoid the tax man. Give them their due.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And the market itself is like, it's a bull run. A lot of money is being made, and a lot of adoption is going to happen because only like 5% of people have taken up crypto at the moment. It's probably going to go to like 50, 60, 70%. So there's so much headroom for growth, right? So approach it with that mindset. And so say, hey, man, I want to be tactical. I just want to avoid taxes here and do a little bit over there. I don't think that's going to pay off.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, I think we've taken a lot of your time. I know you have to rush off as well. But thank you, Hassan, for such an insightful session. And yes, thank you for your time today. And thank you to everybody who sent in their questions and who joined us and listened to us. We hope you found this to be useful and insightful. I hope you all get very lucky on NFTs.
Yeah,
we'll be back
crossed.
with another. We'll be back with another session next month. So stay tuned. Thank you. Take care.
Okay, folks. Okay, Fariyal. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.